this was like really intense.
Yeah, at that point, like, it's quick.
I was in a contraction when she walked in the door.
But instead, something else happened.
Yes. Hi, my name's Natasha.
Hello, my name's Nelson.
And this is the story of the birth of our first child. Okay, just for background, we had a unmedicated, uncomplicated labor at home, supported by midwives, and an uncomplicated pregnancy. Also, the baby is here. He's very chatty.
We can go chronologically, but we're gonna have to interweave, yes, the storyline. It picks up with different perspectives. So would you like to start?
Sure, because I think for me I start earlier.
Because I didn't know that it started until you woke me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So September 1st.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I would say September 1st was what, the Sunday? So I would say it started August 30th.
And then if not, we'll put the text
date
title on this video.
So Friday, August 30th. He wants to know who we're talking to.
So this highlights.
So Friday, August 30th. So at that point, remember, I had been having contractions every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is different from Braxton Hicks, but it's not...
Yes, the Braxton Hicks is what I clearly remember.
But it wasn't like painful. And then like closer to it, which we didn't know was closer to it, but closer to it, there was something more intense that was happening every night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like...
While you were sleeping, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, this is something different, but like timing it, they were like 10 minutes apart for 2 hours and then would stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened for probably like 4 days.
Okay.
So Friday, I thought, okay, everything was, and I think I told you this, but I don't think we talked about it a lot. So I thought all of that, I was like, okay, maybe my body's trying to go into labor, but it's not feeling like this is the, like he's trying to talk. He's like, will you talk to me?
Hey, what's your reaction?
Yeah, so I thought like, okay, maybe my body's trying to go into labor, but maybe it's not feeling like safe because you were at work at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like it was starting and then it would stop because you were gone to work and I was home alone.
And that was my first week going back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so Friday I was like, okay, maybe it'll happen on Friday because it'll start up on Friday, but you'll be home.
Yeah.
You'll be home. So then I thought maybe it would continue. So Friday, after you got home, it picked up again, but again for just like an hour and a half and then it stopped. And I was like, okay, Saturday for sure. Because it'll start in the middle of the night and like whatever, like they always say it starts in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
He's really trying to talk to the camera.
Yeah, he's really trying to talk to the camera.
So Saturday, I was like, for sure, it's going to happen Saturday. Saturday, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a single contraction.
I thought so too.
So then Sunday, very early in the morning, what was it? Midnight or 1:30?
It was 1:30 because we all went to bed.
Late.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh, smart. Right, the day before labor, we go to bed late. Well, we didn't know. So we went to bed late. I woke up at 1:30 in the morning with contractions that were similar to the previous week. And so I woke you up. I told you it's the same thing as before. I'll just like, I can't sleep, but I'll work through it and then I'll wake you up if anything.
Yeah. I remember that being like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we had went to bed like 11 or something.
Okay. So then I was just like working through it for the morning and I have a little bit of clips of that I can put.
Picture here. No, it doesn't make it.
It probably will make it later because you have pictures from later.
Yeah.
But I have videos from this time in the middle of the night before stuff got real.
Oh, okay.
I was just working through it and then I was kind of timing them, kind of writing it down. I have it in my book somewhere. And maybe I'll like make a little note of like what the contractions were at what time.
Yeah. And this is
have
part
that.
of the story that I...
Yeah. So...
Salud.
Bless
Salud,
you.
mi amor.
Yeah, I tried to work through it and then did I come to you because they didn't stop or did I come to you because they were getting closer together?
I think you came to me because they were intensifying.
Intensifying.
And they didn't stop.
Okay.
So like usually from what you just said and what I'm remembering, it was the Braxton Hicks, but then that weekend it was more intense. And then you were able to sleep it off all the other times during that week. But then that day, Sunday morning, 1:30 when you woke me up, you said, okay, well it feels more intensely. And then then 2 hours later you were like, well, the intensity's picking up, it's not slowing down. So you thought, I think that you thought that you were gonna like sleep it off or feel better and then sleep, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, and that was 3:30 when I
Yeah,
woke you
so
up
then
the second
3:30,
time.
yeah, so 1:30 she woke me up and then she was like, it's feeling the same, but I'm feeling it more intensely, and I'll wake you up if it gets more tense. So 2 hours later, at 3:30, then that's when she woke me up, and she was like, yeah, it's very intense now. You want to continue?
I think that was it. Like, I was like, I think this is something.
Yeah.
And then you just got up right away.
Yeah.
I just got a thought, though, to make a side note, that the reason that we're in these outfits is because today is Christmas Eve, and we're just all wearing our Christmas PJs today.
No, we just match all the time. So then we got ready for the day, and
You got breakfast.
and then we went outside for some fresh air, and then we showered and we changed, we got ready for the day, and then that was after 3 a.m. after I called the midwives, and then I called to get some breakfast, and then I picked up a good couple platters of big breakfast so we can have some energy throughout the day, because I knew from the way that Natasha was feeling and being that the baby was going to come soon. She had shown me a couple of birth videos before, and she was acting the same way the women in labor were acting, vocalizing and taking deep breaths. Like every time one of the, what's it called? Contractions would come, she would stop and have to breathe and really let the contraction take over her and let it go through her so that she can continue moving again. So anytime the contraction came, she would stop and feel it.
They say you ride the wave of the contraction.
Ride the wave. She rolled the wave of the contraction.
Okay, I guess we keep going. So you got breakfast. You ate. I didn't really eat very much. I didn't have much appetite. I think you said by 9 o'clock you had set up the pool.
I think so, yeah.
So I was feeling like things were really intense, and I did feel like I was having trouble, I think, coping with the intensity of it. And I just wanted to do something different because I had been moving. We had tried sleeping. It didn't work. And so we tried the pool. I think before we tried the pool, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that I had tried sleeping on the couch, and that was the time when I was sleeping in between contractions. So it was like 5 minutes apart by this time. So I was sleeping for 5 minutes, and then I would wake up in the contraction, and then I would fall back asleep for 5 minutes until the next contraction. That was before, right? I got into water? Okay. So then you set up the pool because that was very intense. Obviously, I wasn't getting any rest. So you set up the pool, and then I think I started getting into the pool as one of several options for managing with the intensity. So I was moving, I was in the pool, I was in the shower, back and forth. I used the exercise ball for a little bit. And then the midwife called back around 2 o'clock to check in. And you talked to her. What did she say at that point?
That you should rest and try to go to sleep because it was going to be a long process. And lay on your side, and then I think you tried laying on your side, and I know you tried laying on your side and to go to sleep for 5 or 6 contractions, and she listened, and then it was probably the worst of the pain because she wasn't able to move, and moving is what helped her. And
Just chatting with you.
after we got up, I think you felt worse. So then you started moving around, and then that's when you got into the pool. The second time you got into the pool. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so she did say to sleep, and I tried it. That was the most painful for sure. Or the most uncomfortable. I think that was painful. I wouldn't say most of the contractions were painful, but when I tried laying down for at least 5 contractions, I think I did 7 contractions, and that actually felt painful because it was like I couldn't do anything about the feeling that I was having. But we continued because she insisted, I think in that phone call, that she insisted that we not call back until I had been having contractions 3 minutes apart for an entire hour. Ever since trying to lay down, the contractions had started getting really erratic, of just going from like 10 to 7 to 6 to 5. They started going down to 3, but they were also jumping back up to as much as 7. So it'd be like 3, 4, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, and they just kept bouncing back and forth. So we never really hit a point where the contractions were 3 minutes apart for an entire hour. I don't even think they were 3 minutes apart for 15 minutes. By around 6 o'clock, I started feeling something different, and it wasn't just contractions, it felt like a really intense pressure on my pelvic floor, and it was very different. So after feeling this pressure maybe a few times, I decided that even though we're not seeing the contractions 3 minutes apart for an entire hour, we need to call back because something has changed and something is definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the time, I think, that the last time that you called at 6 and talked to Bailey. We basically had a team of midwives, and there were 3 people on our team, 2 midwives and 1 student. So there was one midwife that we kind of really vibed well with, and we were hoping that she was going to be at the birth for us, but we knew that she wasn't going to be on call at the time, around the time that we were expected to go into labor.
We knew that?
Yeah, she was going to be away because
we knew that?
we had an appointment scheduled for the day before I was due,
you're right.
and they said that it was going to be with the first midwife.
Yeah.
Basically, when we went into labor, or like that Sunday morning when we knew that it seemed like something was progressing, we knew that it was going to be the first midwife that was going to be answering the phone because we knew she was going to be on call during that time. So we expected that the midwife that we really wanted, that we vibed with, that we really wanted to be a part of our labor wasn't going to be around at that time. After the day progressed and you called back at 6 o'clock, it turned out that the midwife that we wanted to be at our labor picked up the phone. Were you surprised to hear her?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you just like, bless you. I think things were so intense at that time, right? That you didn't really respond. You were just like, call, talk to her, get her information.
Yeah. I was more worried than anything, so I really didn't care who I was talking to, as long as I was talking to someone, because you were vocalizing a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept, like, as the day progressed, I kept asking her, hey, are you okay? Are you in pain? Do I need to call? Do we need to do something else? And then you were like, no, it's just pressure. It's just intense pressure. But like, as the day went on, she vocalized a lot more. The midwife can hear that you were like vocalizing a lot more. And then she was like, oh, like...
Yeah, I had a contraction while you were on the phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are the contractions like? And then I'm like, the other midwife said to call back when there's 3 minutes, but it's not going to 3 minutes, and the pressure and the vocalization is a lot more. And now she's saying that she needs someone here, and the contractions are going from 5 minute contractions to 4 minutes to 3 minutes to 5 minutes, maybe to 7, but it didn't really go past like 8 minutes because we were like recording it the whole day, and it was like reaching 3 minutes and hitting 3 minutes, but not being 3 minutes for exactly the 1 hour. So she was like, okay. And then when she heard you vocalizing, she was like, okay, tell her to go into the shower, take a hot shower, and keep moving around, moving her body the way it makes her feel more comfortable. I'm on my way. I should be there within half an hour or 45 minutes because she lived in another city away from us. And then, so that's what we did. She went into the shower, and as the day was progressing as well, something that I didn't mention earlier was that she wanted counter pressure. So like her hips were opening and shifting, and I would be on her back, lower back, putting pressure, and then on her side as well, putting pressure, because her hips were opening for the baby to come through. And that was also getting more intense. So the vocalization and the pressure on her back and her hips. So it would go from like maybe an hour I would do it to like maybe every 5 or 10 minutes that I would be doing it and putting a lot of counter pressure.
Yeah, the feeling, the intensity of it increased, and I could like definitely feel that my bones were shifting, and particularly in my hips, I could feel that my pelvis was shifting, and that was like a really, really intense sensation for me. So I did really appreciate the counter pressure, and it did, at that point, it was definitely where I needed the counter pressure for every single contraction. And you were getting things ready, like, I don't know, putting the pool, getting water, making it warmer, because the water in the pool had to be, you had to put more water in to get it warm every time. So you were doing different things, and I think you were also like trying to get snacks for me, trying to get water for me, and wherever I was calling you. I was calling you to give me counter pressure, and you had to drop everything you were doing to come to like squeeze my hips. And I think that you told me, I don't know if this is right, but I think that you told me that the midwife said try to slow things down for me so that she had time to get there, because she felt that based on what she heard that I had progressed. I think she arrived around 7, and she started setting up her stuff, and she basically just let us continue doing what we were doing and observed us in the beginning, just to see what we were doing and to observe my contractions. And I think she talked to you about how things were going. I was in a contraction when she walked in the door. So the midwife arrived around 7 o'clock. I was mid-contraction when she arrived, and you guys did like a little debrief. You talked to her about what was going on, and then I think she observed us for a few hours just to see how the contractions were going. And she was really, really great about, this is something that I really liked, she was really, really great about kind of standing back, and then just like, she would watch, and then she would just make a suggestion, and she would say like, oh, do you want to try this position? And then she was very hands-off, so like you would help me through every position that she suggested. So from my perspective, because at this point I was turned very inward, and I didn't have much time in between contractions, and I still felt like a lot of intense sensation in my body, even in between the contractions. So because I was so turned inward, I kind of didn't really sense what was happening like beyond my immediate proximity. So for me, it felt a lot like it was just the two of us doing this thing together. And I would hear her voice kind of like in the background, like she would say something, do you want to try this? He's vocalizing a lot. So I would hear her voice suggesting something, and then I would go, yes, I want to try it, or no. And then she asked if I wanted to be checked. The cervical check, I had not had a single cervical check for the entire pregnancy, and this cervical check was the only cervical check that I had for the entire labor as well. So the cervical check turned out to be the most, maybe the most, I think it was the most uncomfortable part of the entire labor. But after she checked me, she figured out why, or she confirmed her theory as to why the contractions were going up and down like that. So when she checked, she said that I was between 5 and 6. So she said I was 5 to 6 centimeters dilated, but that one side of my cervix was more progressed than the other side, or softer than the other side. And she said that her theory was that the baby's head was tilted and was pushing more towards one side than the other side, and that's why one side was more progressed than the other side. And we figured that was because I was trying to lay down, and that because I had laid down for so long on one side for so many contractions, that the baby was progressing, and then because I leaned to one side, the baby leaned to one side and pushed more force onto one side. And so because of that imbalance, I wasn't able to progress normally, I guess. And that's why the contractions kept bouncing back and forth. That's what the midwife was telling us. And so she kind of coached us through different things we could do to
get the baby back in position.
Yeah. And the main thing that we had to do is I had to lay down again on the opposite side for several contractions, which was, again, very uncomfortable, but that was kind of the only way that would kind of balance the baby back out, was to lay on the opposite side and kind of let the baby turn their head back the other way. So we did that, and she had a TENS machine with her, so she let me hook up the TENS machine while I was doing that, to kind of like give me a different sensation to distract from the discomfort of the contractions laying down. And I had to lay down and be perfectly still. I couldn't even move. So that was very uncomfortable. And I didn't even get counter pressure because I was laying down. I just had the machine, which I suppose was helpful. I think that was helpful. But
Well, that was because the baby was getting into position. But then after the baby was in position, then you were moving every which way after. Okay.
Yeah, after I laid down and things were good, then I started moving again.
Yeah.
So at that point, things progressed really, really fast, if I remember correct, because this was like really intense.
Yeah, at that point, like, it's quick. Everything was super fast. I don't even remember. I didn't even take in that we had ended so late. But we'll get to that. Yeah. And I was just like, it was like so surreal.
And after that, my hands were just numb.
So, just to let everyone know that, like, if you think you've been through some hard stuff in life, which you probably have, and we all have, this like labor process and the birth of a child is going to be one of the hardest things like that you experience.